Welcome everybody to the NFL Draft Series. It's Heidi, Fang here with our NFL writer Adam Hill. We're going to be breaking down what we think the Raiders might be doing on defense in this episode. So Adam, this is the one everybody's been interested in. This is the one people want to hear about, defensive picks. Where do you think the Raiders start in this draft with defense?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at because the Raiders put a lot of money in defense in the offseason. They invested in free agency. Obviously, a lot of talk about Yannick Ngakoue up front, but a lot of depth, too, along the defensive line. Last year, they invested in the linebacker core, and I think the big addition is Nick Morrow coming back. So kind of addition by just keeping him when a lot of people thought he might be leaving in the offseason. So a lot of investment in that front seven. Don't know how much more they'll go. I think definitely there's some room there to add another edge rusher, another depth defensive tackle. And in the secondary, there's a ton of young pieces. And the hope for the Raiders is that those guys continue to improve. David Arnett from last year. Trayvon Mullen had a pretty good season last year. He's kind of that anchor as a corner. They hope Arnett takes the next step with him. Abram will be in a new position, so that will help him continue to improve. But they do definitely need to add another free safety. That's such an important role in the Gus Bradley defense. Carl Joseph comes back from Cleveland. That will help. Jeff Heath is still around. I think he's a guy that can just be a very dependable veteran presence in that secondary with all those young players. But definitely free safety is a place to look for the Raiders in this draft. And along the front line, depth at defensive line, especially another edge rusher, would be a key piece to add. And then I think linebacker is still a place where you can add a piece as well. You've got the starters in place for the most part, but maybe you get another young guy to come up with Tanner Muse and Javen White, who are still developing at that position. But in terms of key names, Trayvon Merrick is a guy to look for maybe in the first round. If they don't get the offensive tackle they want, he's a safety that could absolutely just plug into this defense. He's a legit first-round talent. No, not a lot of people take safety in the first round, but he might be warranting a spot there. And then along the defensive front, Jalen Phillips from Miami could be like a top 5, top 10 talent. There's some concerns there potentially with him, but he's a guy to maybe look at. Greg Rousseau could also fall into that area. And we'll see. Kwity Paye, I think a guy who probably goes in the top 12, but maybe he falls to number 17 as well. So there's some places to look on the defensive side. I think everybody expects offensive tackle in that first round, but maybe they address the defense as well.
I have to bring up one name, and I think he will be gone by the time the Raiders pick at 17, but I keep seeing it. It keeps popping up on my radar. Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. We know how much the Raiders love those Alabama guys. Do you think they would try to trade up or down to try to acquire a player like that?
I think the Cowboys are a team to really look at with Patrick Surtain. I believe, he's the son of an NFL player, certainly has the pedigree, had a better pro day than I think a lot of people might have expected, and a legit shutdown type corner. But there's other corners as well. Caleb Farley is a name to watch. He's a guy that could be a top 5 player. A ton of medical concerns, but some teams believe that his medicals look okay. He'll fall in that first round. How far does he fall? Does he go to the Raiders, and do they make that leap? Do they take the risk to bring a guy like that in? That could be a huge risk-reward consideration there. Hey, he might be one of the better players in this draft. He might be hurt and not really give you a whole lot the next couple of years. They did the same thing with David Arnett a little bit last year, with a guy that was hurt that didn't play a whole lot. So I don't know that they'd want to do that, but that's another name to potentially take a look at in that first round.
In particular, when we start looking at the Raiders, and you mentioned the front four, Maurice Hurst, he's been shipped out by the Raiders, as well as Arden Key. Are these pieces that you think the Raiders have already done to replace with in the free agency, or are they going to look in the draft to get some more depth pieces for their positions and those holes to now fill?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think certainly there's enough picks that you can address those areas of concern. But you go into the draft having a plan, and then every other team does what they do, and you have to kind of adjust your plan. So maybe they want to address that in the draft. Maybe they want to add some depth. Maybe the right players don't fall to them. Maybe they decide, hey, look, we want to take an offensive tackle in the first round, but a corner fell to us that we wanted, or one of those elite wide receivers, and maybe they take a shot at another one. I don't think they would, but hey, if Jalen Waddle's on the board, maybe you take a shot at him, and then you have to address offensive tackle later, then you have to address safety later, and then you don't get those depth pieces on the defensive line. So I think the plan right now is to go into the draft, see what you can take, get the best players available, and then fill in some of those needs as far as depth goes later on and later in free agency. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys released that are going to be on the market, and maybe you have a shot at them too.
There you have it from Adam Hill. You can keep up with all of his work on VegasNation.com, as well as this entire video series on Vegas Nation and the app as well. Download that today to keep up with everything that we're doing. Get your free podcast, because this will soon be a podcast as well for our bonus editions. And we have others 3 days a week, and we'll have a full draft series 5 days of NFL talk during the draft, and also our shows that'll be coming up on Cox. So if you're looking for NFL draft coverage, you'll find it here on Vegas Nation. For Adam Hill, I'm Heidi Fang. Thank you for watching.